those sub 1 million are people that the whole business revolves around the owner, and they're amazing. They're a unicorn. They're the best at what they do, but they didn't invest in building layers and levels within the organization to expand. That sellers want to brag about how much they know. You want to brag about how little you do in your business and how the business runs without you. That is music to a buyer's ears.
It's not even that you feel burdened to, Mr. or Mrs. Owner. I think you like being the center. If you ever want to exit, it will hurt you and you'll look back and regret that you operated that way. And at a certain point, that just breaks. My name's Steven. I also have Colin here with me, and this is Entry and Exit. What do you think? What do you think about that? It's like Ryan Seacrest, and this is American Idol.
Will you sing for everybody?
Yeah, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
I can't do it. But we're having fun. Colin, tell us what we're talking about on this episode.
Yeah, we're going to talk about how you can maximize the value of your business, enterprise value of your business. It happens to also be a good operational thing to do. And that is make your business not depend on you. It's a big problem. I think that it is the most pervasive problem in this industry. And just quickly zoom out, there's a massive concentration of security integrators, fire alarm companies that are sub $1 million of EBITDA. And there is a small but very large group that are in the tens of millions of dollars of EBITDA and plus 100 million for some of them. And there's a massive gulf between both of those groups. It's not zero, but it's very small. And I will tell you the reason why I think that is. I think that's one of two reasons. One, I think it's because those sub 1 million are people that the whole business revolves around the owner.
Yeah.
And the owner cannot break through that ceiling because it's so dependent on them, and there's only one of them, and they're amazing. They're a unicorn. They're the best at what they do, but they didn't invest in building layers and levels within the organization to expand. You have to invest in your people that then go and build your business. And so the groups that are buying businesses know that. And so the ones that are very aggressive, where the owner is involved in all the sales, all the operations, all the purchasing, and all the tribal knowledge, and it's like a really common thing that sellers want to brag about how much they know in the sales process of their business. And that's actually the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
You want to brag about how little you do in your business and how the business runs without you. That is music to a buyer's ears.
The involvement doesn't equal value.
Yeah. Well, and exactly. And by the way, if you're not selling your business, fine. Like, that's great. But again, if you want to break through the $1 million EBITDA ceiling, you have to be hyper focused on how do I build this business without me? I cannot be single threaded. You should be able to go on a week-long vacation and the business run totally fine without you.
Yep.
And I think that's a fantastic litmus test.
I do too. Here's a really spicy take. And we didn't talk about this, but I'm going to throw it out there. I'm interested in your response.
Okay.
I think, and even some of you listening to this, and this isn't just true of our industry, this is small business ownership.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even that you feel burdened to, Mr. or Mrs. Owner. I think you like being the center.
Yeah.
I think you have the identity of everything hinges on you, and you're the person, you make it all happen, you're the star.
Yeah.
I think some of you need to assess your relationship with your business, because you actually kind of like that reality. But the problem is, if you ever want to exit, it will hurt you and you'll look back and regret that you operated that way.
I totally agree with that statement. But I think here's another thing. We actually talked about this on a previous episode, that what happens is owners get some success and then they start to take a draw out of their business. And so they want to spend the least amount of money. A lot of the owners we see, and this is great, like if you watch your pennies, the dollars will follow. Like we subscribe to
Mm.
that. But I think there's some things that you should try to be. There's a difference between being scrutinizing where spending is going and being cheap. And I think if you're being cheap,
Yep.
particularly around talent, you're going to get cheap results. And
Yeah.
so if you want to be cheap in technology, if you want to be cheap in your uniforms for your employees or your vehicles or your rent, fine. Especially if you want to be cheap on how you purchase, like great, get a really tight purchasing, like find the
Mhm.
levers, but cheap with your employees, I don't think that's going to work out long term. And so as a result of that, you're going to have to get comfortable not taking as much money out of your business every year. It's like, oh, I pay myself $250,000 a year and I scoop out 400K at the end of every year. I like that. I'm comfortable with that. My life is built
Mm.
on that. And so I think you're going to have to get used to spreading those dollars around into your business. So again, what are some common signs or like, what is the like symptoms or yellow flag of founder dependence or key man risk? What do you think, Steven?
Way too much has to flow through you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even things that are in the weeds, every single proposal or estimate, like it all has to be kind of green lighted by you. And it depends on size. Like, if you're a team of 8 people, like you probably are involved in every single hiring decision or interview process. I understand that. But, as you start to grow, like if every single little thing is running through you, you're never going to scale.
Yeah, I agree. I think another one is we just talked about this earlier is no second layer of management. Um, if you have little to no second layer of management, that's a problem.
Mhm.
Um, I think a really good litmus test is you have at a minimum 1/3 layer of management somewhere in your business, and that just shows that you're maturing. How about this one? No documented SOPs.
Yeah. It's that's a bad habit.
Yeah,
That's a no-no in Alarm Masters world.
yeah, yeah. It is. And so when you are selling your business or thinking about selling your business, you're going to get asked questions like, "Who runs operations? Who runs sales? Who does the billing? What happens if you disappear for 90 days?" And the way that you answer those questions is going to determine some valuation that your company is, being assigned.
Yep.
Um, and so you got to be truthful because the due diligence provider is going to find it out anyway. But I would ask yourself those questions today and start to rectify them today. And if you've got to place some bets, we're a growth forward business. So we're always investing. We're sales led. We're very unique in the industry in that we're a sales led organization, not operations led. So we're going to invest a lot of our resources into sales and marketing
Yeah.
to start. And then that pulls operations forward. And we naturally have to invest in operations versus the other way around where it's like, oh, we overhired for technicians. It's like, hey, yeah, get that. Got to do that. Got to solve for that. But also, like, we're going to really go heads down on sales and marketing.
I mean, every customer, every single relationship, there was no separation between the owner and hundreds of customers. Like, and at a certain point, that just breaks.
Yeah, it breaks and it makes it really hard. It also what it flags is higher churn risk, right? Like it's telling whoever's buying or valuing your
100%.
business that there's a higher churn risk of employees and I really meant customers, but also employees, right? Like you potentially have a bunch of employees that really rely on that owner, and they're like, hey, and here's the scary part about the employee thing. By the way, we've discovered this employee churn doesn't happen day one. So if you have this fear that like you're gonna walk in and your employees are all gonna leave, I mean that hasn't happened to us yet. I hope it never does. That's not been our experience, and we haven't really heard stories about that. It happens slowly, and it happens because the owner is the duct tape that holds everything together, and that's what the employees are used to,
Yeah.
and they're also used to a certain amount of lack of micromanagement in areas because like for example, when we bought Alarm Masters, the owner, God bless him, he was amazing. He did everything, but there was certain parts of the business where it's like nobody was really paying attention to this, so the employees were kind of just doing whatever they wanted.
Mhm.
And And it was like, no, we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to be productive, and here's how we're going to handle that. And we're going to have a standard for how we, whatever. And they didn't like that. So it wasn't that they didn't like us. It's just that they didn't like that we were enforcing some KPIs and structure of the business.
That's
So
right.
I think that, like, if you're there's a lot of key man risk or whatever founder dependency, you're going to see that pop up a lot.
Yeah.
How do we, just to kind of like close the loop on it? How do we reduce the founder risk? Like, what are the steps we can take today, aside from just second layer management, whatever? Like, what are the things we can do to reduce that today?
Well, the very first thing you have to do as an owner is take an inventory of everything that you're responsible for. So I
Yeah,
think
that's great.
a lot of owners don't even really realize how much they're doing. Like, I sat with an owner last year, and he started out telling me how he's got this great team and all these things, and he's, it's not all on him. And then progressively through the conversation, as we started to kind of talk things out, he literally said, "Man, I guess I do kind of have two or three jobs now that I think about it." And it's like, we're all the way here, talking to, over a burger about you wanting to sell your business. And it was really the first time he had fully realized and acknowledged just how much he was responsible for. So I think that's the first big step. And I would encourage anyone in that scenario to be very detailed.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I would say one thing is to document SOPs. Everything that's in your brain that you verbally hand off to employees, you should start documenting those SOPs. Hey, use ChatGPT or Claude or something. Pay a $25 a month subscription. Talk in natural language. Use your voice to text. And it will document it for you with a nice, pretty graphics and words. And then just throw that thing in Google Drive or wherever. Have it documented. Due diligence providers will ask for that. I think another thing is figure out a way to start transitioning your customer relationships. That's probably the most important one. Is like, how do I get these key customer relationships to have a relationship with somebody that's not just me? You don't have to go away, but if they're calling you for every service call, every sales call, every billing issue, you've got to delicately be handing those off to other people in your department. And I'll just say, like, again, I put my phone number, direct phone number, on our website for customers to call anytime they have a problem. And inevitably, I do get calls. Got a call yesterday. Had some billing issue, and somebody called me, and I called them back. And I listened for 2.5 minutes, and I said, "Hey, I'm not even in the loop on that, and I'm super sorry that you had that experience. Let me get Brian involved and loop him in here. Can I loop him in on this phone call?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah." So I get Brian involved. Brian starts talking to him. The problem is solved. Brian handles it. Next time, that customer's not going to call me. He's just going to go to Brian. Or what's going to happen is I'll be traveling. The guy will call me again. I'll say, "Hey, Brian, can you call this customer real quick? Tell him I'm traveling." The whole relationship's been transferred. And that doesn't mean I'm
Yeah.
not available. If something bad happens and the customer really needs to get a hold of me, they can get a hold of me.
Right.
Right. But I think transitioning those customer relationships, and it's not that you're transitioning the ownership of it. You're just transitioning certain pieces of that relationship are going to other people that are not just you. You're
Yeah.
still there, and that's the message to the customer. And I think if you talk to the customers at Alarm Masters that are strategic customers, they would say we've done a decent job at that.
Yeah. One other thing which I alluded to earlier is just not being the center point of all decisions. And so
Mm,
you have to be intentional to start to push all of that decision making kind of down the org chart. And that really is, I mean, it kind of sounds like a woo woo word, but you have to empower your employees to make decisions and for them to feel comfortable, like it's allowed. Like, no, no,
yeah,
no, no. It's not because I'm busy. It's not because, I don't want to deal with it. That's a
yeah,
bad attitude, right? It's because
mm-hmm,
I'm trying to help you become
mm-hmm,
X, Y, or Z, right? I'm trying to
yeah,
help you be empowered to make significant decisions in our business. And now that happens on a daily basis at Alarm Masters, where people are entrusted to make really important decisions all day long.
yeah. One way that you do that is every time an employee asks you a question about how to handle a situation, you say, "What would you do? What do you
Hmm.
think?" Because, like, sometimes they're not going to nail it, but a lot of times they are. A lot of times they're going to surprise you and they have the right answer already. But if they don't, it's almost a win-win, because if they don't, you can say, "Hey, I'm just going to correct that a little bit and let me explain the why." If you get into the why
Yeah.
of the way you're thinking about it, your employees can start to reason like you reason, right? Like they can start to think through the lens of, everybody jokes in the office all the time about like, what would Colin say about that? Like that's always, they're just like, what would Colin say about that? And it's like, it's always usually something like he'd have a 1 word response, because all my emails are just like 1 word or 2 words, like yes or do better. I always sit, like somebody will send me something and I'll just reply jokingly. I'll be like, do period better. And so they start to get like, hey, this is how he thinks. Like, I don't even necessarily like, so the great thing for me is when there's a customer problem and I'm not even involved in it. But then I get to talk to him afterward. Like, hey, how'd you handle that? How'd you think through that? What was your thought process? So yeah, I think whether or not you're selling your business or not, like enterprise value and growth and structure, those two things go hand in hand. We talk about this all the time. There's a reason buyers pay more and you have higher enterprise value. And that reason is you have a better operating business. That's just the simple truth. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. It's like, hey, you keep an enduring business, keep it for decades, but some of these are just fundamental truths.
That's right. And if these fundamental truths are appealing to you, especially in the way we express them, then you should like them, and you should comment on them, and you should
Yeah.
subscribe to them further and share
Yeah.
them with your neighbor,
Yeah.
your mom,
Yeah.
anybody. We invite that.
I would love if your mom would listen to this podcast, honestly, at the end of the day. Well, we appreciate it. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.